Friend of the show, Lee Camp is here. He's the host and head writer of the comedy news TV show Redacted Tonight, contributor to Truth Dig, and a veteran stand-up comic. But most importantly, he's had attack pieces done against him in the New York Times, NPR's Weekend Edition, and the Washington Post. So, and he's got a new book out now. Here it is. It's called Bullets and Punchlines. It's my main man, Lee Camp, is here. Hi, Lee. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Jimmy. Although I got to say, having a Russian puppet on your show, I lost a lot of respect for you right now.
You know, I've been trying to undermine democracy since I started this show. And wow, the Russians are really helping. Do you see how the Russians somehow got all the establishment candidates to coalesce against the candidate who represents workers? Did you see Russia did that?
It was phenomenal. I got to give them props on that. They got every corporate candidate to suddenly drop out and all high five together behind a corpse.
Oh, I've seen corpses that look better than Joe Biden, and I'm not being an ageist, but he doesn't look good. Anyway, let's get to your book a little bit, right? So I just want to read people the foreword. So Chris Hedges, everyone's hero, Chris Hedges, right? Pulitzer Prize winner. And here, he's a friend of the show. And let me read some of the foreword. He says, in his essay, Shooting an Elephant, George Orwell wrote that power for the ruling class entails, quote, one long struggle not to be laughed at. Withering criticism and cogent analysis of their crimes and peculiarities they can stomach. But when an entire ruling class is reduced to ridicule, when the very presence of the elites evokes derisive laughter, the powerful shrink in size before our eyes. Stripped of pomp and power, they become clowns, and once they are transformed into clowns, they become ruthless. There are two types of comics. There are those who focus on the foibles and excesses of the powerful, and there are those such as Lee Camp and Jimmy Dore, as well as the late George Carlin, who focus on how the powerful are the public face of the oppression and exploitation. Those comics who take aim at the entire ruling establishment, who are as withering about Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton as about Trump, who expose them all as hypocrites and puppets of global capitalism and imperialism, are swiftly marginalized, demonized, and censored. The followers of these types of comics are blocked on Facebook and YouTube, something Camp and Dore have experienced. These comics, the ruling elite understands, are dangerous. They expose the nature of power itself. They damn and ridicule all who serve the system. And totalitarian regimes, including our system of corporate totalitarianism, are often more frightened of these artists who have a mass appeal than writers like me, whose analysis of the system is not much different from radical comics, but who do not turn this analysis into biting satire and humor. So that's quite a strong statement, and I think it really sums it up, right, Lee? Wouldn't you agree? I mean, of course you do. It's in your book, but just go ahead and just respond to what he said.
Yeah, I think that he's absolutely right. I mean, obviously, Chris Hedges is right about a lot of things, but I think that once these rulers become viewed as clowns, it's kind of the beginning of the end for them. I mean, right now we're seeing it. They can hang on to power with massive militaries and police militarization and so many other things. The propaganda outlets that they have, they can hold on to power for a while, but it's kind of the beginning of the end. The cracks have formed in the dike, and it's just a matter of time before the flood rushes in. So I think it's incredibly important to ridicule these people and turn them into clowns and point out their hypocrisy. And it was very flattering to have Chris write the foreword and you write the intro. Although I really view it as a Jimmy Dore book with a Lee Camp afterward. So
the introduction is quite a thing. I don't want to brag, but I don't want to read my own introduction, but it's much better than Chris Hedges' foreword. I'll tell you that. I know that was very self-serving of me to read that part because my name is included in it. So You know me. I'm very needy, Lee. I grew up the youngest of 12. I need a lot of hugs. So, but that was really, what I like about you, Lee, and in this book is that you don't play partisan politics, which is so boring. What you do is you actually critique the system, which is what Chris Hedges talks about, which is what most other comedians who call themselves political comedians never do. They'll make fun of Trump's hair or his latest tweet, which is what they do on late night television. But late night television will never criticize the system that gave us Donald Trump, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it's sad that so many brilliant comics, and I won't take anything away from a lot of their comedy, but they choose not to dig deeper and to realize what's really going on. They choose to sit there on that surface level and just say, Trump is orange and nothing more. And of course, if you look at it, if you look at, as you well know, if you look at the deeper issues, the endless bombing overseas, we drop a bomb every 12 minutes. Obama dropped 26,000 in his final year alone. That's the military under him. And the Wall Street has completely gone unfettered under Trump or Obama. So many of these things remain the same, yet we act like these two parties are just completely different and completely different views of the world, when in fact they agree on so much. And those of us who call out the other 90%, the 90% that matters a lot more, we're ridiculed and pushed aside by the corporate media crackheads. But that's why they can't handle it. They can't handle addressing these issues.
So let's talk about one of the issues that I haven't heard the mainstream media talk about at all, but it's in your book and it's kind of stunning. The Pentagon can't account for $21 trillion, and that's not a typo. Let me just read a little bit from your book on this. $21 trillion. The Pentagon's own numbers show that it can't account for $21 trillion. Yes, I mean trillion with a T, and this could change everything. So go ahead. What are you talking about that the Pentagon can't account for $21 trillion?
Yeah, it's these $21 trillion of unaccounted for adjustments, and now people are saying it's even higher, upwards of $35 trillion. It's a completely unimaginable amount of money. And when they're pressed on this, first of all, they had their first ever audit a year ago, and they just came out and said we failed with nothing more, no further explanation. We just failed the audit. And when they're pushed on this trillions of unaccounted for adjustments, they say, oh, it's just financial discrepancies. Bullshit, okay? You can't have $21 trillion of financial discrepancies. That's like saying I had sex with 100,000 rabid aardvarks because I wasn't looking where I was walking. No, one or two maybe, but over that, it's a trend. Okay, something more is going on here, and it's totally disgusting, because that amount of money, even if a portion of it is missing money, which it actually is, like $13 billion of printed cash disappeared in Iraq. So like pallets of cash. So we know that a lot of this is literally just money that's lost, and it's like, what could that be? Like the UN estimates it would cost $10 billion to give everyone in the world clean water for a year, saving millions of lives. This amount of money could do everything we want to do, fix all of our infrastructure, give everyone health care. It really is insane. And yet the Pentagon is just a black hole of funds that we just dump it all into, and then it shits out all over us.
And even more to the point, Lee, do you share my view of how it exposes the establishment and our government for being a one-party rule, which also runs the media, when they're screaming impeachment about Donald Trump and how he's working for a foreign adversary, Vladimir Putin, yet at the same time, those same people who are saying all those things are 100% passing his legislative agenda, including giving him money for his border wall, giving him an extra $131 billion for bombs, which, as you and I both know, which was almost twice as much as you need to send everybody to college for free. Yet they say we can't afford that. But this guy who's a traitor to our country, they gave him $131 extra billion to do war. Not just 1 year, Lee. That's every year in perpetuity.
Yeah, yeah. And there's another chapter in the book that's kind of saying what you're saying, which is the Democrats gave Trump a dictator's toolkit because it started, well, it didn't start under Obama, but they made it worse under Obama, such as the surveillance of all American citizens. And that grew under Obama. Our bombing campaigns grew under Obama. The unlimited power of the presidency grew under Obama. And then they handed it off to Trump and said, oh, my goodness, he's so dangerous. Well, who gave him all those tools? You idiots. Like they created a dictator's toolkit, handed it to Trump, and now, like you're saying, they continue. It's not just like it stopped the moment Trump got into office. They continue to want to hand him more and more. They handed fast track trade negotiations to Trump, basically saying that Congress cannot change any of these idiot trade negotiations that Trump does. They have to just approve them as is. They gave that under Obama, and now it lasts for all 4 years of Trump. Like, it's just, you can go down the list of how they gave him just a toolkit to basically not be stopped anything he wants to do, and they now further it.
So, but Nancy Pelosi did rip up his speech on TV.
Yeah.
Right? So when I when I saw that happen, to me, what it made me think of is professional wrestling, right? Because they're all being paid by the same people. They just passed his agenda, but in public, they all look like they hate each other, and they all get their checks signed by the same people. It's the same donor class. It is professional wrestling, right?
Too bad she didn't have a folding chair. It would have been very different. But yeah,
yeah.
I mean, and that's why Donald Trump is so good at it. He treats it as professional wrestling. And the Democrats don't always know how to respond to him being a comedian up there and basically he's like a roast comic.
Yes.
He's up there just making fun of Joe Biden. I mean, he's going to, by the way, if you want to lose this election, put Joe Biden on a debate stage with Donald Trump. He's not even going to know what hit him. Like, that guy's just going to have one roast after another, and Joe Biden's going to not know where he is. Like,
hey, we believe these truths to be self-evidently that, the thing.
You know the thing?
Come on, the thing, come on, man. Corn pop. If you don't like me, vote for the other Biden. I'm running for U.S. Senate.
You got to excuse him some, Jimmy, because his eye exploded, and so he lost his train of thought.
Listen, let's get back to your book. I like this. There's another chapter in there, and the title is "The Top 4 Times Americans have been lied into war." And so you say that this is not the first time our government and our media have conspired to drag the American people into war with another country or help create a coup that will inevitably have disastrous results. So I thought this would be a prime moment to go through the top 4 greatest hits. And you have number 4, the Spanish-American War, the Vietnam War, the Iraq War, and the bombing of Syria. Fantastic, right?
Yeah, so what caused me to write that one was we had just decided to bomb Syria, and we were doing it on the false premise of these chemical attacks, which Trump said he was bringing troops out of Syria, and suddenly 9 days later, Assad decides to do the one thing, the one red line that will get America to bomb him. It made no sense from the moment. I mean, even before you had the proof. But now we've had 2 OPCW whistleblowers come out. We've seen the actual reports via WikiLeaks of what went on and the suppression of the actual data showing there weren't chemical attacks. And so that's why the Syria one is in there. And then, and of course, the mainstream media just ignoring all of that, ignoring the whistleblowers from OPCW. I mean, it's truly repulsive. And then, of course, there's Iraq with WMD. And a lot of people don't know that with the Vietnam War, ultimately, Defense Secretary McNamara, he actually said it in a documentary on camera, said that the Gulf of Tonkin incident never happened, and they were firing at storm clouds. And basically, they knew it was storm clouds at the time, and they went ahead and pushed for war, increased war with Vietnam.
So don't you think it's funny that the exact same people who lied us into the Iraq War are the exact same people who lied us into Libya, the exact same people who are lying about Syria, and then and people don't catch on, even when a currently serving congresswoman, military veteran says it's bogus, it's garbage, this is the same old stuff that's happening. They still don't listen. What do you think is going to get the people to finally wake up, Lee?
Well, that's a great question. Hold on. Are you telling me you don't trust Robert Mueller, who was head of the FBI when we went into Iraq? I mean, That disgusts me, Jimmy. You are very unpatriotic. I mean, and now it's the retirement program for those goons during the Iraq War to just be MSNBC contributors. What a disgusting retirement system.
Yeah, well, that is how the elite rewards service, right? So now it used to be that the CIA used to work behind the scenes to buy reporters, which, by the way, doesn't take much to buy a reporter. Okay, steak dinner. Anyway, and so they were, and this is not me making. Everyone knows this. The church committee, they infiltrated CIA infiltrated newsrooms all across the country, and now. It's so bad, they don't even hide it. They just hire the ex-head of the CIA to come be on their news show and give us their analysis. No, you're supposed to bring somebody on to debunk the former head of the CIA. That's not the guy you go for news and information. That's the guy you go to for lies and disinformation, and you're supposed to debunk it. But that's not how news works anymore, is it?
Right. Back in the day, it was called Project Mockingbird, where the CIA infiltrated news organizations. And people were like, oh, yeah, but that ended. It ended because they didn't need to do it secretly anymore.
That's right.
They didn't need a Project Mockingbird. They literally just walk up and start hosting the shows. I mean, Anderson Cooper worked at the CIA for 2 summers and acts like that doesn't matter. I mean, Wolf Blitzer was a representative of AIPAC, and now it's a combination of, your lobbyists and your intelligence agency and your ex-military, and they're just blatantly working on your mainstream airwaves. And God forbid they should have one person who's anti-war, one person who even remotely pushes back against this sludge that is sprayed out of their faces on a daily basis. But then again, we got to look on the bright side. Chris Matthews just retired.
And you know what, Lee? I'm super certain it was just for flirting.
yeah.
I'm super
Not calling
certain.
Bernie Sanders Hitler.
I'm sure it was because he just complimented a few women, and because you know how much women hate compliments, Lee. It was just it wasn't he was being a creeper. It wasn't that he was making them feel totally unbelievably uncomfortable on camera, and he didn't give it. Anyway, it was just that
he looks like such a pushover. I'm sure they came to him and said, "Listen, you said something awkward to a woman 15 years ago," and he's like, "I retire. I resign."
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, they're all the same. Him, Bill O'Reilly, they're all the same. Rachel Maddow considers Roger Ailes to this day a friend and her mentor. You know that.
I didn't hear her say mentor.
Oh, mentor. Crazy. Oh, yeah. We have the videotape. We played it on the show many times. He was a mentor.
It's repulsive.
Yeah, mentor. Mentor. And of course,
I picked up in the bookstore the other day, she had a 2012 book called, Adrift or something, about how our military is too involved around the world. And you're like, what the hell happened to that? 2012 was not that long ago, Rachel.
She totally went the other way. She has, it's amazing. Anyway, let's not turn this into but anyway, let's get back to your book. You say, another chapter, you say, artificial intelligence may destroy humanity by accident, but it won't apologize. Now, what do you mean by that?
Well, the title refers to that you don't have to create artificial intelligence to do harm. You could just accidentally, which we already have done, create algorithms that are racist, which currently actually decide. Judges use these algorithms to decide who gets bail and not, and they've been proven to be racist algorithms. But in terms of destroying the world, the example I give was they created an AI program that was supposed to automatically land planes, and they tested it on videos, not on planes. And it was to see how its job was to see how easily, how softly it could land the plane. It discovered that if it crashed the plane directly into the ground, it overloaded the system and it got a perfect score. So it then proceeded to crash every plane directly into the ground. So you can have an algorithm or an artificial intelligence that is trying to do the right thing and then fires the nuclear missiles. I mean, it's like we are going way too fast. And, Elon Musk and others have said this as well, way too fast without setting any laws on artificial intelligence, facial recognition, surveillance. And we're just letting it run wild. And we're getting closer and closer to this tipping point where we can't freaking control it anymore.
So, in chapter 16 in your book, titled "One Man Could End World Hunger, but He Won't," You say that Jeff Bezos can afford to fix Flint, Michigan's water crisis, end world hunger for 5 years, and pay the tuition of 22 million college students, and still remain one of the richest people in the world. Why do you think he hasn't done that, Lee?
Because he's a sociopath. They all are. When you have that many billions of dollars, you are by definition a sociopath. Because how do you get to that level? You don't. Who gets into a corporate boardroom? I'll give you a hint. It's not the vegan who lets people merge in front of him in traffic. All right, that is not the guy. It's the guy who learns how to exploit people as much and as hard as possible, and that's how you get to that level. And the amount of money is completely unbelievable. Like if you took, I looked it up, and the cheapest housing in America is Wichita, Kansas. I don't know why you'd ever live there, but Wichita, Kansas. And if he were to buy a house apartment for every homeless person in America, he could do that for the next 36 years. He could house every homeless person in America. Like, the amount of money is just, people don't even understand what it is. Like, if we could actually mentally take in $100 billion, the whole America would be on fire. People would be furious, but we can't because it's impossible. So we just let it go.
Like, someone tried to point out the difference between a million and a billion. And like a million seconds is like 7 days, but a billion seconds is like 33 years. Like,
Jimmy, if someone makes $40,000 a year, and how long would they have to work to make $1 trillion? Just one. It'd be 25 million years.
But that's weekends off, right?
Yeah. And the last 10 goes pretty easy because you know where the coffee maker is and everything.
Yeah, that's right. That last 10 million years? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see what else so mainstream corporate hacks triumph as independent media outlets are erased off social media platforms. How do you suppose we get the word out that we need to fight censorship? It's because the people on the left seem to be pushing censorship also.
I know. That's the other disgusting thing is, like, they didn't there's some people in the kind of middle left, the progressive, thought that when the right wing was getting purged from all these platforms, that it wasn't going to come back to hit the left wing, the anti-war people, the anti-Wall Street people. But of course, that's what it's like. They did the Alex Jones test balloon to see if they could get away with it, and then they just go after everyone they really want to stop. And so we do. We have to build up alternative platforms while we continue to use the ones that exist. Like, I don't tell people that creators to stop using Facebook because it's like a second internet. Like, it has so many billions of users that it's not that you should just turn off that tool. You should build up the alternatives while continuing to use the tools that are given to us, use the platforms that have existed for the past several years. And I've been incredibly suppressed, as have you, but my Facebook has been blocked. You and I discussed how they've now eliminated the possibility for anyone to advertise to your fans or my fans on Facebook. And it was specific to us. It was like you and me, like, literally leaving people like Chris Hedges and Abby Martin alone, which like blew my mind. Like, you and I are that much more scary to Facebook than Hedges and Abby Martin. But it's just, it's insane.
Chris Hedges said it, baby. We're scarier than he is right now. Come on, we're a bigger threat. We're the ones bringing it. We're bringing it. That's right. I just had one of these fake third-party fact-checking organizations for Facebook, which is just a ministry of truth now. And so they flagged one of my videos about the Iowa caucus as a hoax, fake news. Not one thing in the thing that they point out was not accurate or true. They just had a quibble with my headline. I said the DNC caught flipping votes. They said it wasn't the DNC. It was the Iowa Democratic Party. This is a hoax. It's not a fucking hoax, asshole. That's called quibbling. That's called quibbling with a headline, and you guys label. And so that's all. So that's their new trick, right? So if they can label enough of my videos fake news or a hoax by a quote unquote third party organization, which it's not, They work straight for fucking Mark Zuckerberg. That's not a third-party organization. Anyway, if they can do that enough, then they can deplatform me. Say, look at all these violations this third party caught. And that's exactly what they did the same. Now, you not only the social media has come at you, but you've had establishment media come at you, the Washington Post, the New York Times. You actually got the New York Times to correct one of their stories, didn't you?
Well, yeah, they retracted two things on their story, which people who know people in the New York Times have told me that's a big deal. Like they try very hard not to retract things, but the whole thing was a complete propaganda piece. And actually, I put the response to it in the book that people can read there. But it was just garbage, and it's amazing that they can't write a 2-page article for their arts section on a comedian without having it filled with lies and propaganda. It's just so incredible. But that attack and the NPR attack, Weekend Edition with Scott Simon or whoever the hell he is, those two attacks came within the span of a couple of months with each other, and they seem coordinated because really what it's designed to do is make sure that anyone who Googles me, it's the top few results. Right. And it seemed coordinated because, I've got no coverage in outlets that big, before that, a couple of years before that or since then. So it seems like it was time to make sure that Wikipedia, furthermore, it helps with the Wikipedia entry to make that propaganda as well, because I know Wikipedia editors, and basically anything from the New York Times or Washington Post is gospel. Anything from CNN is gospel. But if you say, well, this is about me and factually wrong, they say, point to a source. But the source has to be one of their, right, cherished sources.
Right. I'm telling you, their source is incorrect. And they're like, no, but that's our source. I know that's the problem with Wikipedia. Some guy apparently knows more about my life than I do. So if they got my birthday wrong and I wanted to correct it, I wouldn't be able to. Because some other guy has more control over my fucking Wikipedia bio. They should not be allowed to do personal bios on Wikipedia because everybody has fucking haters, and all they do is they go to your Wikipedia page. They know how to game that system. I can't even edit on Wikipedia. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. I was going to say there's one way to get your birthday corrected on Wikipedia. You have to get some Ivy League New York Times troll to write about your correct birthday. Then you can source that.
Yes, that is correct. One of the crazy fact checkers, the Facebook Ministry of Truth people, by the way, came right from CNN. This guy used to work for CNN International, telling people to go sniff backpacks to make sure there was Syrian gas on it. And that now he's going to be the fact checker, which is hilarious. I forget what the point was, but let's get back to your book because I know you have to run. But one more title of a chapter in your book is The Media Never Mentions the Number One Cause of Climate Change. What is the number one cause of climate change, Lee? And why doesn't the media ever mention it?
Because it's animal agriculture and the meat industry, and it's incredibly, the agriculture industry not just does it own our government, but it owns a lot of our media. You will see ads all day long for burgers and meat. You will not see a single ad saying anything about the harm of burgers or meat. And I'm one of these people that I don't. I'm not vegan. I'm vegetarian, but I don't spout like stop eating every ounce of meat right now. I think people just need to limit their meat intake if they're going to be meat eaters a lot, or we are screwed. And yet our mainstream media will never even mention the number one cause of climate change, at least greenhouse gas emissions. And they won't mention, they won't talk about the animal abuse, the ag-gag laws. Like it is like the third rail along with big oil that, and now you're seeing them slightly move into criticizing big oil here and there, but still nothing on meat. I mean, it really is just this incredibly blacked out topic on our mainstream media. It really is disgusting because of the amount of harm that's going on, the amount of, anything that's like positive for GDP. You could eat an endangered giraffe that's like wrapped in bald eagle meat, bald eagle bacon, and they'd be fine with it as long as it's, you bought it at a store, so you contributed to the markets.
Yeah, that really is it. That really is it. So, all right, Lee. Well, I want to tell everybody it's a great book. Let me show you the title again. Here it is. See the cover. We get to the cover. There it is. It's called Bullet Points and Punchlines. I like the subtitle, The Most Important Commentary Ever Written on the Epic American Tragicomedy. I like that. Introduction by Jimmy Dore, forward by Chris Hedges. Where can people get this book, Lee?
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. It's at leecampbook.com, and that's the easiest way to get it through the publisher rather than going to one of the corporate bookstores.
Got you.
And I'm also have a book release event not tomorrow, Saturday at Strand Books in New York City, and that's also at leecamp.com. You can just click the schedule tab, and I'm touring in a bunch of cities as well, and you can get Redacted Tonight and all that stuff at leecamp.com.
Okay, everybody, leecamp.com, leecampbook.com. It's a great book. Pick it up. Bullets and Punchlines. Great comedian, Lee Camp. Does a great show, Redacted Tonight on RT. Check out all things Lee Camp. Thanks for being on, buddy.
Keep fighting, man.
Okay. Everybody, the next live Jimmy Dore show is May 1st in Minneapolis, and then we're going to Chicago. Go to jimmydorcomedy.com for a link for all the tickets to all our live shows, and become a premium member at jimmydorcomedy.com/join. We give you hours of bonus material every week. Thanks for your support.